Welcome. Settle yourself into a comfortable position. Let your breathing slow, steady, and deepen. There is nowhere you need to go, nothing you need to remember, and nothing you need to prepare for. For the next while, you are simply listening. Tonight, we are traveling far back in time, to a place that has been polished by legend and hardened by myth. A place often imagined as sharp, disciplined, and heroic. A place associated with strength, courage, and unwavering resolve. We are going to Sparta. In modern culture, Sparta is remembered through powerful images, disciplined warriors, iron wills, and fearless sacrifice. This is a story not of glory, but of structure. Not of freedom, but of lifelong control. Not of individual triumph, but of endurance. Tonight, Estonia explores what it truly meant to live as a Spartan citizen, not as a king or a hero remembered by history, but as an ordinary person shaped from childhood to serve a system that demanded everything and offered very little in return. Imagine yourself there, not as an observer, but as someone born into the rhythm of Spartan life. From the moment you can walk, your life is no longer your own. And so, gently, we begin. Imagine yourself as a child in Sparta. There is no sense of childhood as we understand it today. No prolonged warmth of family life. No long mornings of rest or exploration guided by curiosity. From the earliest days, your existence is measured, evaluated, and quietly judged by the state. At birth, elders examine you. This moment is not ceremonial or kind. It is practical. You are assessed for strength and physical promise. Those deemed too weak are quietly removed from the community. Survival itself is conditional. If you remain, your life follows a path already decided. At the age of 7, you are taken from your family and enrolled in the agoge, the Spartan state education system. This is not schooling in a traditional sense. It is not about reading or philosophy or self-expression. It is about shaping the body and the will into tools of obedience. You live in communal barracks with other boys your age. Privacy disappears quickly. The rhythm of your days becomes repetitive, predictable, and exhausting. You wake early, sleep little, and exist under constant supervision. Food is intentionally scarce. Hunger is not a failure of the system. It is the system. You are fed just enough to survive, never enough to feel full. The emptiness in your stomach becomes familiar, almost comforting in its consistency. You are encouraged to steal food to supplement your meals, but not to get caught. If you are discovered, the punishment is not for stealing, but for failing to be clever enough. Hunger teaches you resourcefulness. Punishment teaches you silence. Physical discipline is constant. Beatings are frequent, administered not in anger but with calm routine. Pain is instructional. You learn early not to cry out, to endure without visible reaction, to accept discomfort as the natural state of things. Even clothing is limited. Often, you are given a single cloak for an entire year. In winter, it offers little warmth. In summer, little comfort. Shoes are unnecessary, your feet hardened against stone and dust. Over time, sensation stalls, and endurance replaces comfort as the goal. Surveillance never ends. Older boys monitor younger ones. Instructors observe constantly. Even your peers are encouraged to report weakness, defiance, or softness. Trust becomes dangerous. Emotional closeness is risky. You learn to keep your inner life quiet and guarded. There is no space for individuality. You do not choose your path. You do not explore alternatives. You do not imagine a different life. The concept of personal ambition barely exists. Everything you are becoming is defined by Sparta's needs, not your own desires. As you grow older, the training intensifies. Competitions are harsh, often brutal, but rarely described with flourish. They are not spectacles meant to entertain. They are tools meant to strip away hesitation. Injuries are common. Recovery is expected to be swift. Complaints are met with indifference. You learn to speak little. Spartan speech is famously brief, not because it is witty, but because it is efficient. Words are unnecessary. Silence is safer. Even adulthood offers little relief. As a Spartan citizen, You are required to participate in communal meals known as sissi. Attendance is mandatory. The food is plain, repetitive, and functional. These meals reinforce equality among citizens, but they also erase privacy. Your life remains visible, regulated, and observed. Marriage does not grant independence. Even as an adult, you do not live fully with your spouse. Domestic life is secondary to military obligation. Emotional bonds exist, but they are carefully limited. Attachment is discouraged. Loyalty belongs to the state first, always. Fear is not dramatic here. It is quiet. It is constant fear of appearing weak, fear of failing expectations, fear of standing out in any way that might draw scrutiny. Your life is narrow, structured, and repetitive. Day after day follows the same disciplined pattern. There are no choices to weigh, no paths to consider. The rhythm of Spartan life is steady, relentless, and deeply unchanging. And yet, from the outside, it is admired. Others speak of Spartan strength, Spartan courage, Spartan discipline. But from within, it is simply life, a long endurance of hunger, restraint, and emotional silence. As the years pass, the system becomes internalized. You no longer question it. You no longer resist. The boundaries feel natural now. Freedom, if imagined at all, feels unfamiliar and distant. This is what it meant to be a Spartan citizen. Not heroic, not glorious, but controlled from childhood to old age. And as we move forward, we will turn our attention to one of the most famous Spartans of all. A man whose story has been transformed into legend. A king named Leonidas, and a battle remembered not for its complexity, but for its myth. As the rhythm of Spartan daily life slowly fades into the background, we now turn toward a single moment in time, a moment that is echoed far beyond its quiet beginnings. The name Leonidas is often spoken with reverence. It conjures images of defiance, sacrifice, and unwavering courage. But before legend took hold, before poetry and cinema shaped the story, Leonidas was simply a Spartan king operating within a rigid political system. To understand Thermopylae, it helps to first set aside the drama. Imagine the Greek world in the early 5th century BCE. It is not united. It is fragmented into city-states, each with its own priorities, rivalries, and anxieties. Sparta is powerful on land, Athens increasingly influential at sea. Persia, vast and distant, is an empire built on administration, logistics, and scale. The Persian Wars are not a clash of good and evil. They are a collision of systems. When Xerxes, king of Persia, prepares his campaign into Greece, it is not reckless ambition. It is calculated expansion, following established imperial patterns. The Greek city-states respond not with unity, but with hesitation and debate. Sparta's role is complicated by its own traditions. Spartan kings do not rule absolutely. Power is shared among kings, councils, and elders. Decisions require consultation, deliberation, and often delay. At the time of Xerxes' advance, Sparta is observing a religious festival, the Carnia, which restricts military action. These matters. Leonidas does not march north with the full Spartan army. He cannot. The laws and customs of Sparta prevent it. Instead, he leads a small force, 300 Spartan citizens, accompanied by allied troops from other Greek city-states. This is not a suicidal gesture. It is a holding action. Thermopylae itself is not chosen for symbolism. It is chosen for practicality. A narrow coastal pass when numbers matter less, where a smaller force can delay a much larger one. Mountains on one side, sea on the other. Limited space. Predictable movement. Imagine yourself there. The air is heavy, the ground uneven. The days pass slowly. There is waiting, watching, listening. The Persian army is immense, but not chaotic. Camps are orderly. Supply lines function. Messengers move back and forth. When fighting begins, it is not constant. There are advances and withdrawals, probing attacks, pauses. The Spartans and their allies fight with discipline, not frenzy. Formation matters more than strength. Routine matters more than passion. Losses occur quietly. Men fall. Others step forward. The rhythm continues. The famous last stand comes not from arrogance, but from information. A local guide reveals a mountain path that allows Persian forces to move behind the Greek position. Leonidas learns that the pass will be surrounded. At these moments, choices are made. Most of the Allied troops are dismissed. Leonidas remains, along with his Spartans and a small contingent of others. The reasons are layered: obligation, reputation, strategic delay, and Spartan expectation. Retreat would not only be tactical, it would be cultural rupture. For a Spartan king raised within the agoge, shaped by a lifetime of restraint and duty, the idea of withdrawal is complex. Personal survival has never been the primary measure of success. The final fighting is brief, intense, and decisive. It does not unfold as an endless wave of enemies crashing dramatically forward. It is confusion, pressure, exhaustion. Weapons break. Lines collapse. The inevitability of defeat becomes clear long before the end arrives. Winnie disobered the pass belongs to Persia. From a military perspective, Thermopylae delays Xerxes only briefly. The war continues. Battles are won and lost elsewhere. Athens will burn. Navies will clash. Empires will recede and adapt. But the story of Leonidas does not end there. In the years that follow, Thermopylae is transformed. Poets refine it. Historians simplify it. The complexity fades. What remains is a symbol, a small group standing against overwhelming odds. The message is powerful. It is also selective. What is often omitted is the system that produced a system that demanded sacrifice not just in death, but in life. A society where the path to heroism was paved long before the battlefield, through hunger, discipline, and the quiet erasure of choice. Leonidas did not step into legend by accident. He was shaped for it from childhood. And yet, when we strip away the poetry, what remains is a human story. A king constrained by law, expectation, and tradition. A battle shaped by geography and timing. A moment remembered not for its full reality, but for its usefulness. As time passes, the legend grows louder, while the quieter truths fade. And it is those quieter truths that archaeology would later begin to uncover. Not through stories, but through stone and bone. When you are ready, we will move gently into the earth itself, and listen to what the remains of Spartan bodies can still tell us. As the echoes of Thermopylae slowly fade, we move away from written accounts and heroic we leave behind speeches and inscriptions, and instead turn towards something quieter, something far more patient. We turn to the ground beneath Sparta. Archaeology does not speak in grand narratives. It does not praise or condemn. It simply reveals. Imagine yourself standing in the dry landscape of Laconia. The earth here is firm, layered with centuries of dust, stone, and silence. Over time, buildings collapse, paths disappear, and stories dissolve. But bones remain. When archaeologists began carefully uncovering Spartan burial sites, what they found was not myth. They found bodies shaped by repetition. The skeletons of Spartan men often show signs of long-term physical stress. Bones thickened not by chance, but by years of constant strain. Joints worn unevenly. Spines compressed. Knees and ankles marked by relentless impact. These are not the marks of a single battle. They are the signatures of a lifetime. Training leaves. Trace it. Repeated blows, falls, and endurance exercises subtly reshape the body over decades. The bones adapt, growing denser where pressure is constant. Stress fractures appear, heal imperfectly, and leave quiet scars behind. Many remains show evidence of injuries sustained at a young age. Healed breaks in arms and ribs, signs of trauma that occurred long before adulthood. This aligns closely with what we know of the agoge, a system that exposed children to controlled violence and hardship as part of their formation. Pain was not exceptional. It was expected. What is striking is not how dramatic these injuries are, but how ordinary they seem. The bodies suggest endurance rather than exception. A population accustomed to discomfort, conditioned to continue without rest or recovery. Burial practices tell another part of the story. Unlike many Greek city-states, Sparta practiced relatively simple burials. Grave goods were minimal. Markers were modest or absent. This was not an oversight. It was intentional. Spartan culture discouraged displays of individuality, even in death. Most citizens were buried without elaborate ceremony. The dead returned quietly to the earth, their lives summarized not by personal achievement, but by participation in the collective system. Only those who died in battle, or women who died in childbirth, were sometimes granted name markers, a reflection of what Sparta valued most. Even here, the message is restrained. No monuments to personal dreams, no inscriptions of character or ambition. Only role and function. Some skeletons reveal signs of nutritional stress, periods of limited food intake, particularly in youth, leave subtle indicators in bone development. This supports historical accounts of intentional underfeeding during training years. Hunger, it seems, was not just remembered, it was recorded in the body. And then there are the absences. Compared to other Greek regions, Sparta offers fewer richly decorated tombs, fewer artistic depictions of daily life, fewer personal artifacts. This scarcity is not due to loss alone. It reflects a society that deliberately minimized material expression. Sparta did not preserve itself through art. It preserved itself through discipline. Yet archaeology also reveals contradictions. Some remains show care. Healed injuries suggest that individuals were not simply discarded. There was recovery. There was continuation. The system demanded endurance, but it also required its citizens to survive long enough to serve. This balance between harshness and maintenance defines much of Spartan reality. The goal was not destruction, but optimization. Still, the bones do not lie. They show us bodies shaped early, pushed hard, and maintained just enough. They reveal a population whose physical lives were tightly regulated from childhood onward. And in this quiet evidence, the myth softens. Sparta was not a society of fearless warriors, untouched by suffering. It was a society that normalized suffering to the point that it no longer required comment. The remains beneath the soil do not shout. They whisper. They remind us that behind every legend stands a body that lived through routine, strain, and time. As we slowly lift our attention away from the earth, there is one final perspective to explore. Not the young in training, nor the fallen in battle, but those who ruled, the elders, te ilis, the ones who lived long enough to benefit from the system they upheld. When you are ready, we will take a quiet step into the halls of Spartan power and see how life unfolded at the very top. As we move gently away from the training grounds and burial sites, we now enter a different space within Spartan society. It is quieter here. More controlled, less physically demanding, yet no less structured. This is the world of Spartan elites and elders. Power in Sparta does not announce itself loudly. It does not parade through grand palaces or overflow with ornamentation. Instead, it settles into routines, councils, and quiet authority exercised over time. Imagine yourself as an aging Spartan citizen. You have survived childhood training, adulthood in the ranks, and years of obligation. Your body bears the marks of that journey, but you are still standing. Now, gradually, your role begins to change. Physical exertion gives way to oversight. Elders in Sparta hold significant influence. The Gerousia, the Council of Elders, is composed of men over 60. Those who have endured long enough to earn the right to advise, judge, and decide. Membership is prestigious, but it is not flamboyant. Debate is measured. Speech is sparse. Decisions are framed as tradition rather than innovation. Power here is conservative. Its purpose is preservation. Elite Spartans live with greater stability than the young, but not with unchecked luxury. Homes are still relatively plain. Clothing remains simple. Excess is discouraged. Even wealth is expected to be discreet. Yet beneath this simplicity lies privilege. Elite citizens control land, and through it, labor. The agricultural foundation of Spartan society rests almost entirely on the work of the helots, an enslaved population bound to the land. They farm, harvest, and maintain the resources that allow Spartan citizens to train, govern, and deliberate. This dependence is constant. Every meal, every moment of leisure, every political discussion is supported by labor performed elsewhere. The elite rarely engage directly with this work, yet it shapes their security and their fears. The helots outnumber Spartan citizens significantly. This imbalance creates a quiet tension that never fully disappears. Surveillance extends beyond Spartan children and soldiers. It reaches into the countryside. Control is maintained through intimidation, routine inspections, and occasional displays of force. For the elites, authority is inseparable from vigilance. Luxury, when it exists, is subtle. A well-built home, reliable food, time to think, discuss, and influence. Comfort is measured not in softness, but in predictability. Marriage, family, and legacy matter more now. Lineage becomes a concern. Property must be maintained. Reputation preserved. Elders are expected to embody restraint to model the values Sparta claims to uphold. Even at the top, freedom is limited. Choices are constrained by expectation. Deviating from tradition invites scrutiny. Innovation is viewed cautiously. Stability is prized above progress. Spartan elites do not dream of change. They dream of continuity. As age advances, physical demands lessen, but responsibility deepens. Elders judge disputes, interpret laws, and guide younger citizens. Their authority rests not on charisma, but on survival within the system. To reach old age in Sparta is itself a qualification. Yet even in later years, life remains communal. Meals are shared. Routines persist. Privacy is minimal. The individual never fully separates from the collective. And so, at every level of Spartan society, from child to warrior to elder, life follows a narrow channel, predictable, restrained, enduring. The myth of Sparta often ends with glory. The reality settles into routine. As our journey through Sparta comes to a gentle close, it becomes clear that its legacy is not one of constant heroism, but of sustained control. Sparta was not loud. It was not expressive. It did not celebrate individuality or exploration. It was a society built on repetition, from the first days of life to the final years of authority. Spartan citizens moved through a carefully constructed system. Hunger trained resourcefulness, discipline shaped obedience. Silence protected cohesion. Strength in Sparta was not an emotion. It was a habit. The legends we remember, Leonidas, Thermopylae, unwavering resolve are real, but incomplete. They sit atop a much quieter foundation made of routine, restraint, and endurance. For those who lived within it, Spartan life offered certainty, but little choice. Identity was assigned, not discovered. Purpose was inherited, not selected. And perhaps that is why the myth endures. It simplifies what was complex. It celebrates what was costly. It transforms control into courage. As you rest now, consider the contrast. The freedom to pause, the comfort of choice, the quiet privilege of rest without obligation. The past fades, as it always does, leaving behind lessons rather than demands. Let your thoughts slow. Let the rhythm of history soften, and allow yourself to drift gently away, carrying only the calm awareness that the world today is quieter and kinder in ways that once could not be imagined.